Good afternoon. I'm Dwayne Borcherding, President of NAIFA, Ohio. We are honored to host the first 2020 NAIFA Live broadcast this year, here from Emeritus office in Cincinnati. The NAIFA Ohio is comprised of about 600 members of 3 locals, Cleveland, Columbus, and our host city, Cincinnati, as well as 3 affiliates. You know, it's also a noted year that it's NAIFA's 130th anniversary. So it's kind of a neat deal that we're kicking off 2020 here in Ohio and Cincinnati for that honor. Earlier today, NAIFA Ohio held a board meeting in conjunction with this meeting. Our board made a commitment to increase our NAIFA Ohio membership by 130 members in honor of this special anniversary year. We understand this is a lofty goal, feel that it's very doable, and yet we know it needs to be done. I would challenge other state organizations, locals, affiliates, to come up with a similar type program. Lastly, I wanted to also mention that NAIFA Ohio will be hosting a Lily class beginning on February 18th, and we would love to have others join us for that. Thank you again for participating in today's NAIFA Live event. Thank you.
Could everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. My name is Mark Baumann. I'm the NAIFA Ohio Immediate Past President, and I'm thanking you again for everybody coming today to the NAIFA Live event. We would like to take a moment to thank our main sponsor, Emeritus Life. Not only are we coming live from the Emeritus home office, but Emeritus is providing us with a reception after our speaker. Emeritus have been a strong corporate partner to NAIFA, and we appreciate it very much. To say a few words, let me hand this over to Mr. Kurt Shallow. He is the Senior Vice President of Agency and Advisor Distribution and the President of the Emeritus Investment Corporation. Kurt also serves on the Board of Directors for the American College and is on the Distribution Committee of the ACLI, another great partner to NAIFA. Kurt, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, and it's exciting to be part of this NAIFA program, and congratulations on your 130th. Cammie Scott joined NAIFA in 1998. A Lilly graduate, Cammie has served numerous leadership roles throughout her tenure in NAIFA, including Lilly Subcommittee Chair and Moderator Chair. In addition to membership and membership benefit committee roles, Cammie has been a NAIFA trustee since 2015 and is our new national president for 2020. Cammie holds 2 degrees in engineering and uses her analytical reasoning to help businesses perform better. Her company, CK Harp and Associates, works with other companies to set their employee benefit plans and operationalize processes. Please join me in welcoming our new national president, Cammie Scott.
Well, it's great to be here live in Ohio, and want to give a warm welcome to our NAIFA Nation out there joining us via video. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. Thank you, Kurt, and thank you, Emeritus, for hosting this event. Thank you, John, for your help as well and allowing us to be here. Appreciate your support for this. You know, I am delighted to be your new president. This is a great time of celebration. Just as already has been mentioned, this is our 130th anniversary for NAIFA, 130 years. Also, this is our 2nd year in a row that we've got our new set of bylaws. You know, we started out a couple of years ago and we totally transformed the organization, transformed the bylaws, transformed what we do. Our goal was to make it easier to do business with us and make it better for you all. We wanted to equip you, give you tools that you could use to enhance both your practice and your life. So thank you for the leaders, and there's lots of them across the country. Thank you to the leaders who worked countless hours to make this all happen. Now, one of the things that I'm very excited about, because I mentioned this is a great time to be president, one of the things that I'm very excited about and that lots of people ask about is membership. And we've already had some membership conversations in here today, and I know we've had some talk about some new members. Appreciate that. So membership, we have had a phenomenal year. We just closed out 2019. Now in 2019, when we look at our new members, our brand new members, we're up over 20% for the year. Now, here's the way this works. And Kurt, you're a marketing guy. You're going to talk to us about marketing, so you know how this goes. So here's the way that our marketing numbers are going. They're going like this. In the third quarter, we were up 47%. In the fourth quarter, we were up 75% on our new members, our brand new members. So that's quite an accomplishment. So thank you to each of you for working so hard to make that happen. And what's really impressive is in November and December, what happens in November and December? Yeah, here's people chuckling in here. Right, it's holidays, people are on break, they're not at work. We doubled our numbers. We doubled our previous year's numbers for November and December. So we've had a tremendous membership year. Thank you so much for all that you've put into that. And we're just getting started, right? Right. So this year's conference is in Boston. Who's going with me to that? All right. Our theme this year is Be Revolutionary. That's the theme for it. Okay. Now, the word revolutionary, that means to turn. It means to be daring, to be all in. And so for 2020, we're all in. We're finding a way to move the industry forward, to move the profession forward. And there's 5 ways that we're doing that. The first way is excellence. Walt Disney said, if you do something well, you do it well enough, if you do it over and over, do it well enough that people will come, they'll come back, and they'll bring their friends to see it again and again. What we want to do is operate with excellence. Excellence in our programs, excellence in our products, excellence in our staff, excellence in our operations. We're moving forward. It is no longer business as usual. We're all about excellence. Second, we've become master creators. Will Rogers said, even if you're on the right track, if you sit still, you're going to get run over. So we've become master creators. A couple of things that I'll mention with regards to that are the centers. We have 3 new centers. Now, centers, those are really areas of expertise, places that you can go within our organization to equip you, to give you some extra expertise with that. We've got 3 of them. We've got the Limited and Extended Care Planning Center. We've got the Business Performance Center and the Talent Development Center. Once again, targeted information that we've got. Second, we've got NAIFA Live. And this is our 2nd year. This is the kickoff of the year for NAIFA Live. And NAIFA Live, what that does is we use technology and innovation to really bridge the geographic gaps. We bring people closer together and bring you the right programs as we're coming along. We do have our schedule laid out for the entire year for this, and we have some new awards. If you attend all 12 NAIFA Live events, we have some special awards and recognition for you as well. The third way is we've got improved communication. We have a new website that's coming out. We have new social media, and we have some new printed materials as well for you all to utilize. So we want to make sure that we're really communicating all the things that we're doing, because I can assure you we're doing a lot of things with this. The fourth way is information and data-driven decisions. Now, you heard that I'm a recovering engineer. Y'all heard that? Yeah, yeah. My background is statistical analysis, right? I'm all about the data. Show me the numbers. That's what I'm all about. So we want to make informed decisions. How do we allocate our resources, right? How do we allocate and make sure that we're using them to the best of our advantage? The fifth way that we're really moving things forward this year is through our alliances and our partnerships. We're working hard to unify the industry and advance the profession. We have 4 MOUs right now. We have WIFS, LIA, NAIA, and Females in Finance. And we have more partnerships that will be announced in the coming days. But we're working hard to make sure that we're engaging the entire industry, all different levels, bringing everyone together. So, what can you all do? We're asking that you be engaged. We're asking that you step up. I know several of you have been talking in here about the things that you can do. John said, I'm not afraid to ask. I like that. Not afraid to ask. We want everyone in here plugged in. We want you actively participating. No more sitting on the sidelines. It's time to get in the game, baby. Now's the time for you to move it forward and get engaged with this, whether you're the newest member in the room or you're the longest standing member in the room. All of you bring value. We appreciate each and every one of you, and each of you have a unique skill set that you bring to the table, and we need that. You see, we're moving forward and we're doing a lot of great things. And when Tom Michael comes next year, because I know your board's already asking, how do we get this on the agenda again for next year? And Tom's following me. So when Tom comes and he talks about all these great things that have happened in the past year, I want you all to be able to say, not only did they happen, but I was a part of it. I was a part of something bigger than myself. I was a part of moving the organization forward, moving the industry forward, and moving the profession forward. Now, last year, as we worked towards implementing our bylaws, we came up with the tagline, together we can take on anything, because there were lots of challenges as we implemented those new bylaws. This year, we're adding to it. And I know Suzanne's cringing. This year, we're adding to it, though, Suzanne. This year, we're adding that we're better together, because each of you bring unique skills. Each of you bring unique talents and abilities. We're better together, and together, we can take on anything. So thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm going to follow up by Kersey back here. And Kirk and I, his information was on the website, but I said, you know, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about you and what you do. So this is information that you're not going to get on the website. So he's married. He's been married for a couple of years to Kersey. His wife does jewelry design, Kersey. And he started out, doesn't that just roll off the tongue? That sounds like a jewelry designer. That's what it sounds. It does, doesn't it? So he worked before with Northwestern Mutual before he became a consultant. And so he's been doing digital marketing now for 4 years, married 2 years, no children, but they're thinking about a pet. I think, aren't you thinking about a pet? Yeah. So they're thinking about a pet. So he's going to come to us today and talk to us about digital marketing and talk about what clients really want. How do you communicate with people? Because oftentimes we tell people lots of stuff, right? But there's a big difference between telling somebody something and actually communicating with them. So he's going to share some secrets of how do you leverage technology, leverage marketing in order to build those relationships faster and move your business forward faster. So with that, let's give a big round of applause for Kersey.
Do I need to be using this mic, you guys, or no? Okay. For having me today, really excited to be here. Really grateful to be in the room with y'all. We call herself a recovering. I call myself a recovering financial advisor. So I used to be one of y'all. There's not a whole lot to recover from. I loved my short stint, 6-year stint as a financial advisor. I actually got into the business because my father has been in the business his entire career. As some of us in the room, are there any second generation advisors in here? None. We usually, Cammie, there we go. Thank you. You might have just raised your hand to make me feel better, but I appreciate it. Either way. I really grew up around the business, but didn't really know much about the business, right? My dad didn't bring his work home a whole lot, but a few things that I did see that were really powerful in my life, he was always around. He was always available for me. He had great relationships. He had really deep relationships with his community, right? And as I got a little bit older, I started to say, you know what? I don't know what my dad does, but I don't really want to do it because it's got something to do with math, and I'm not much of a math guy, right? And so I never really looked at the financial advisor route until I got a little bit later into my college years, and I was actually on track to go do my JD MBA. Here we're in Cincinnati at the university. And I needed a job before I went and did my but JD MBAs are not cheap to pay for. Part-time job in my dad's office, and I started to see actually what his day-to-day looked like. And I realized sitting in my dad's office, watching these folks come in of his office, all for the most part with smiles on their faces. This was 2008, so maybe the biggest smiles on their faces, but by the time they left, they had smiles on. And one of the things that was really powerful, oh, is that what it is? I'll just stand like a statue. Okay, I can do that. Maybe. My brain works better when my feet are moving, but that's okay. So one of the things that was really powerful about what I saw from being in my dad's office was the fact that some of his deepest relationships, some of the people that I saw him building community with over the years were his clients, were the people that he also got to be their trusted advisor, right? And when I opened my eyes to that, I said, gosh, this is a really unique opportunity. Right. And so I started to kind of kick the tires on the career a little bit, and to make a long story a little bit longer, I had somebody approach me from the Northwestern Mutual office that my dad was in and say, hey, you know, why exactly do you want to be an attorney? And I said, well, I think I'm pretty decent at understanding these complex techniques and tools, and then kind of bringing them down to a level that I could explain to an individual that's maybe never heard of them before. And I kind of like building relationships and talking to people. And he said, well, you realize as an attorney, you probably won't get to do that for another 20 years. But as an advisor, you could do that today. I said, well, I guess I should be an advisor then. And so I jumped on board at Northwestern Mutual, and I loved my 6 years there. Fast forward through those 6 years, I realized, gosh, there's such an opportunity for advisors to have a broader impact, just like you can have an impact on a one-on-one basis, just like NAIFA is now doing with this NAIFA Live organization, this opportunity to scale the impact that messages like these can have. We can do that as advisors as well, right? And so the opportunity to leverage some of these digital tools, leverage some of this digital technology to expand the breadth of our reach as advisors is what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Sound like a plan? Good deal. So if you weren't already bored at my story, uh-oh. Is it me at this point? It is on. There we go. Okay, so if you weren't already bored by my family, I want to tell you, since I gave my dad some attention, I want to tell you a story about Mama. So this is Mama Bear, Skinny Lenny, as we affectionately call her. This is actually at our wedding during my mother-son dance with my sweet mom. And I wanted to show you this picture and tell you a quick story about when I was 16 years old. Anybody got any teenagers in here? Okay, a couple of you. Anybody already lived through the teenage years, your kiddos? Okay, a lot of you. So I didn't make a teenage in the house very easy on my parents. But when I was 16 years old, I got my first car, and I'm all excited about having my license. I was a little bit older than most of my friends, so I was the first one to get my license. And I also had a cell phone. And on the cell phone, I had text messaging. You might see where this is headed, right? So what happened? I got my license. I got all my friends in the car with me. We're driving all around Cincinnati. And my mom is calling me saying, hey, Kurt, where are you? And what do I do every time I see mom's name pop up on the phone? Ignore, right? And then what do? Text, hey mom, what do you want? How can I help you, mom? I'm with my friends right now. Mom calls again, ignore again. Hey mom, what do you want? How can I help you? Right? This cycle then repeated until I got home and I got a nice little conversation with dad. But this cycle, then eventually what happened? Now my mom knows I'm giving this presentation today because I was excited to come visit you guys. And I get a text message this morning from about 8 long. All the reasons she's proud of me, plenty of emojis, right? All the little hearts, all the heart eyes, everything you could think of from my sweet mama who didn't want to text me, not just 12, 15 years ago, right? So a really important moment. What I think is powerful about this is a quote from Dr. Henry Cloud. We can't see all of it here local, but it says, we change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. I'm going to say that one more time. We change when the pain of the same becomes greater than the pain of change. Now, Cammie just shared some of the changes that are coming to NAIFA, and I think such amazing, welcome, innovative, thoughtful changes because it became too painful to stay the same, right? We wanted to add value through this organization, so we're making the required changes to participate in that value, to broaden that impact, right? And you can do the same in your businesses through some of the changes that have come to the industry over the last few years. And specifically what we're going to talk about today are some of those digital changes. So my sweet mama decided that she would rather communicate with her son, at least through text messaging, if not through picking up the phone and actually having a conversation. So she decided to make that change, right? Now I'm the one calling my mom going, can you just call me instead of sending me an 8-paragraph text? But I love where her heart's at. I love this, regardless of what you think of Mr. Rockefeller. I love this quote. It says, every right implies a responsibility, every opportunity an obligation. And I don't actually have this one memorized, so I don't know what the last line is. But I think the message is clear here, right? I think as advisors, you play such an important role in your clients' lives, right? You play this valuable role of trusted advisor. You oftentimes know more about their lives, more about their unique situations, more about their marriages, more about their relationships, more about what's going on with their kids than anybody else in their lives, right? And so you have this distinct opportunity to continue to build that trust with them at a deeper level and also with their community, right? And so to go back to, we change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. We have a right, a responsibility to step into that change in a big way, right? I want you to do a little bit of a thought experiment with me here for a moment. If it helps you to let your imagination run wild, you can close your eyes. If my voice will make you doze off to sleep this afternoon, then don't close your eyes, keep them open. But I want to do a little bit of thought experiment. I want you to think about, as you walk out of this room, because we've got all our cell phones away and we're not paying attention to our phones for another hour or so, right? You pull your phone out of your pocket and you start to look through your notifications and you see an email pop up. And in that email, it's an invitation. You open the invitation, you start to read a little bit about the event. And it makes it clear in the email that at this event are going to be all of your favorite clients, all of those key relationships, key stakeholders that have made your practice what it is today. All of those people that you love spending time with, that you love building into, and that build a lot into you, right? Also at this event are going to be all of the people that build into them, all of the people that have influence over their lives, all of the people that influence their decisions, all of their community, right, that they've spent years and years building into and developing. Also at this event are going to be all of those dream clients that you say, gosh, if I could just work with Steve, gosh, if I could just work with Jane, whoever those people are in your community that you say, gosh, I wish I had a deeper relationship with that person. How quickly would you RSVP yes to that party? Right? Quick show of hands, because I want to make sure you're with me. Pretty quickly, right? We'd all make sure that we could be there. We'd clear the calendar, we'd call the wife and say, hey, I need to make sure I got this night open because I cannot miss this event. And here's what I want to tell you is on a lot of social media platforms, every social media platform, especially one that we're going to talk about today, LinkedIn, this digital cocktail party is happening on a regular basis. Arguably every single day, right? And so by not participating in some of these opportunities on social media, we're effectively saying no over and over and over again to that RSVP. Make sense? Y'all ready to go to the digital cocktail party with me? Sure. Okay. RSVP, yes. Okay, so I had a mentor of mine say this to me early on in my career. He said, we've all heard the phrase, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? We've all heard that. He said, I believe that people won't know how much you care unless you're there, right? You got to be there. You got to be in front of them. You got to be building that relationship for them to even know that you care in the first place, right? And in today's world, it used to be that shoe leather and cold calling and the yellow books could get you in front of enough people to show them that you care. I would argue that that still works. It just works in a different environment than what we used to be in, right? It works in this digital cocktail environment, and we just got to know how to use the new phone book and the new shoe leather in today's world. So I want to talk about this concept of the LinkedIn land rush. The idea around LinkedIn. How many of you have a LinkedIn profile currently? Awesome. How many of you are on LinkedIn at least once a week? Awesome, a lot of you. How many of you are on LinkedIn daily? Less of you. How many of you are on LinkedIn a couple times a day? I know you are because you sent me a LinkedIn request before this meeting even happened. Okay, LinkedIn is a huge opportunity for advisors that not enough advisors are capitalizing on, and that's why I'm here talking to you about it, right? Let's talk about a few stats around LinkedIn. In 2019, at the beginning of 2019, LinkedIn hit 600 million members, right? So substantial amount of members. They're no longer the stepchild of the social media world. They are officially a major player in the social media landscape. 40% of the working US population have LinkedIn profiles. And out of that 40%, 41% of all millionaires have profiles, and 60% of all of the US working population that is on LinkedIn makes $75,000 or more. So we're talking about decision makers, right? We're talking about people that have influence. We're talking about people that need the help that you all provide. We're talking about people that need guidance in their lives, right? I always get the excuse of, well, Kurt, I know, I get it, 600 million users on LinkedIn, but I just don't think that my clients are there. And when I look at stats like that, I go, well, maybe you're working with the wrong clients, right? This stat I think is really important too. 3% of the members on LinkedIn generate 30% of the content on the platform. I'm going to say that one more time because I think it's important. 3% of all the users on LinkedIn generate 30% of the content on the platform. 30% of all the posts, all the articles, all the images are generated by just 3% of the members. What that tells me is this room still has a massive opportunity on the platform, right? LinkedIn is have you heard other people like me talking about LinkedIn and telling you need to be on LinkedIn, right? This isn't a new idea that we need to be on LinkedIn, but it's still a huge opportunity. We still don't have enough people that are adopting these strategies. So there's still a white space for people like you to jump on the platform and start engaging with your audience, start creating content and start building a following on the platform. I want to talk, what do you guys think of when you see this goldfish? A snack after the talk? Flushing a dead fish down the toilet, maybe for those of you that have had teenagers. Snack. So what I think of, what I want you to think of is a few years ago, Microsoft did a study. Study came out in 2013, it became really popular in 2015, that the human attention span was now shorter than that of a goldfish. We had gone from 12-second attention span to an 8-second attention span, right? And some of you are like, what'd you say? I wasn't paying attention. The reality is what that study has now been challenged a little bit. And what didn't come out of that study was the fact that we've actually gotten better than ever at triaging the information that's put in front of us, right? A few years ago, it wasn't that prominent, right? We can all remember a time when we weren't checking our phones every 2 minutes to make sure we didn't have another email or another alert come through. But think about when you scroll through your email, we've all gotten pretty good at figuring out spam. What do I need to pay attention to now? What needs to just get forwarded to somebody else and delegated out of my inbox, and triaging through that onslaught of distraction that can populate our inboxes, right? And so what I believe is that your clients have gotten really good at figuring out what actually deserves my attention. What should I pay attention to? An environment where they're getting advice from everyone that they know about what they should be doing with their finances, right? What they should be doing with their budget. And we need to be the one that they actually go, okay, I'm going to pay attention to John. John deserves my attention, right? I'm not going to goldfish out and leave the room. I'm going to focus on John, right? I'm going to flip through these. So here's what we're talking about is ultimately what we want to be able to do is we want to help our audience, our prospects, those ideal clients move from unaware of who we are and what we do. We want to get them to focus just long enough, maybe 12 seconds instead of 8, to move from unaware to aware, from aware to curious, from curious to interested, and ultimately engaged in a conversation with us, right? And we want to do that with the best clients, our best opportunities, our best prospects, as many times as humanly possible, right? At scale. And then what we want to do is we want to move them from engaged in a relationship, engaged in our planning process, whatever the case may be, to a client, to a nominator, then to an advocate, and ultimately to an evangelist. I want to talk about those terms for a second. So everybody knows what a nominator is, right? We got nominators in our book of business that help introduce us to other clients. And when I think of a nominator, how we define a nominator is somebody that is willing to say, hey, Kurt, I believe in your work. Is there anybody that I can introduce you to? Or that I might say, hey, Cammie, is there anyone in your network that you think I should meet? And Cammie says, sure, let me think through a few folks. I'd be happy to make an introduction, right? That's a nominator. An advocate is somebody that approaches Cammie and says, hey, Cammie, do you know anybody that that does marketing that you think I should be talking to? And Cammie says, yeah, of course, you should talk to Kurt, right? Cammie, I'd love it if you would do that. That'd be fantastic for me. An evangelist is somebody that, so Cammie is on the golf course with her friends, and she says, hey, I just heard this talk from this marketing guy. You should really check it out. I think it'd be a great opportunity for you and your business, right? The way that we move someone down that pipeline from client to nominator to advocate to evangelist is by being someone that deserves our client's attention, right? Is by creating unique content, having a voice, being a thought leader in the space. The way that we do that scalably is by staying top of mind on these social media platforms, right? We just raised our hands. How many folks are on LinkedIn weekly? How many of you do you think your clients are probably on there at least once a week as well? And are they hearing from you at least once a week on the platform? Are they hearing content from you that they're not going to goldfish out on, but they're actually going to sink into and pay attention to? Probably not, right? And that's okay. Remember, 3% of all members currently create 30% of the content. But what that says to me is we got a white space. We got a huge opportunity to add value in a unique and distinct way so that we can be part of that 3% creating 30% of the content and be top of mind with our clients on a regular basis and to help them move from client to nominator to advocate to evangelist. Right? You with me? We bought in? Excuse me. Ultimately, what do we know about trust? Did anybody ever read the book by David Maister, The Trusted Advisor? Came out maybe late 80s, 90s, something like that. Nobody. Crickets. Thought I was going to get, yeah, it changed my career. No, well, it changed my career. In the book, David Maister talks about this idea called the trust equation. And he says, trust is a function of credibility, reliability, and intimacy as it relates to self-orientation. Credibility, reliability, and intimacy as it relates to self-orientation. So I want to talk for a second. I know that some of us might still be teetering on the edge of whether or not we believe that social media is a great opportunity to engage with our clients, right? And I get it. We change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change, right? That pain isn't quite there for you yet. I get it. But the opportunity here, I believe, to build credibility on a platform like LinkedIn or any other social media platform by sharing the way we're building into ourselves as professionals, right? Sharing that we're here at NAIFA, educating ourselves so that we can serve our clients better, right? And that's why I'm a member at NAIFA. We can share that we're at a conference in Boston, maybe later this year, educating ourselves and digging deeper and networking with other professionals. We can share a unique idea, a unique concept that we know would be of value to the clients and the prospects that we serve. We can build credibility by sharing that expertise and that knowledge on a regular basis for free so that nobody goldfishes out on us and they actually lock in and recognize us as a thought leader, right? But if we only share that content maybe once or twice a year, maybe once or twice a quarter, what we're not doing is building any reliability, right? And so we talked about we're on LinkedIn maybe once a week now. I'm sure all of you have amazing ideas, amazing things going on in your life, in your practice, in your expertise, in your clients' lives. It would be such a win for the one time a week that you're on the platform to just share one of those ideas, right? To just share a concept free of charge. Information's free as it is. Check with your compliance officer, but share a concept. And if you do that once a week, not only are you building credibility, but you're also building reliability. The last piece here is that you're building intimacy. You're creating an opportunity for those clients, for those prospects, for those people that don't quite know you all that well yet, or the folks that have known you for 20 years, to maybe see your face. Maybe we're not quite ready for the selfie video, but maybe we'll get there. But maybe they're ready for a picture of the grandkids, a picture of your staff working together through a team meeting, a picture celebrating someone in your office that just crossed the 5-year mark with your organization, just passed a big test, right? So blend it in with some of those unique concepts, some of that unique expertise that you can share to build credibility, showing up every single week to these platforms and posting something that's relevant and useful to your clients to build credibility, and then sharing a little bit of the behind the scenes of what your life and day-to-day looks like to create intimacy. We can ultimately build trust by participating in these platforms. Right? With me? We're going to start maybe getting on more than once a week? Maybe a couple times a week? All right. I'm going to jump here to a little bit of a conversation around what we can actually do on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. So I'm not coughing all over Artem's clicker here. So how many of you, what do you do when you get on LinkedIn? Shout it out for me for a second. Look around, just scroll through the feed, right? Yes. What else?
Search names.
Search some names. Okay, great. We're going to talk about that in a second, a strategic way to do that in just a second. What else do you do? Search for updates on your clients. That's a great way to do it. So here's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on some ways that we can be really strategic about, even if it's that once a week time, even if it's once a week for 15 minutes, what do we do on this platform to make sure that we're making great use of it, right? This is a part of our presentation when I would love it if you pick up your phone. You have my full permission to actually open your phone and look at the screen, and I won't take offense to it. I won't even know if you're actually checking your email or following along up here. And if you don't already have the LinkedIn app, I would love for you to take a second and just download the LinkedIn app on your phone. If you hate having a bunch of apps on your phone, you can delete it as soon as we're out of here. But I want you to kind of at least try to follow along with me on these steps. So I opened the LinkedIn app literally yesterday, and I took these screenshots, right? Not yesterday, Monday. I don't want to lie to you guys. Monday, because Artem needed my slides before yesterday, or else it would have been yesterday. I opened my LinkedIn app, and I saw this in my feed. My buddy Corey Carlson actually posted something about an event that we did together. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I'd love to see a little bit more about what Corey's do these days. So I want you to open your phones and look at your LinkedIn feed and find somebody that you'd want to reconnect with, or a client that you want to grow a little bit deeper in trust with, right? Everybody got somebody? Okay, cool. And when you get to their profile, I want you to scroll down, see right there at the bottom where it says articles and activity. I want you to scroll down there to articles and activity, and I want you to click on see all activity. Now, if they're part of the 97% that is not very active on LinkedIn, you're not going to see this on their LinkedIn profile. But if they actually engage with some folks on LinkedIn, if they're actually active on the platform, you're going to see all activity. Everybody with me? Everybody got somebody that's got see all activity on there? That's going to open up a screen that looks something like this, right? Where I'm going to see all of Corey's activity. I get to kind of creep on him a little bit, right? And look at what has he been up to on the platform. The first thing I see is a post about him sharing some of the ways that he's been valuable to his clients, right? What might I do with a post like this? And I gave you a little hint with the red circle there. I might comment on it, right? I believe that if it's worth taking a second to hit the like button, it's worth another 5 seconds to craft a comment, right? That carries so much more weight to whoever's on the receiving end of that. Whenever we post something on LinkedIn and somebody takes a minute to comment on it, to say, hey, this really meant a lot to me, or this was really encouraging, or even to disagree with me, but at least be in a conversation with me. This is like someone at the cocktail party, right? To go back to that analogy, it's like somebody at the cocktail party joining the actual conversation, having a dialogue with me, right? Have you ever been at a cocktail party where you don't really know who to talk to, and you don't really know anybody there, and you can't really get into a conversation? It's not a fun cocktail party, right? When somebody actually creates conversation with you, then you get to build relationship, right? And just hitting the like button, if we continue with that cocktail party analogy, is like when someone shares something that's really important to them. They share this new accomplishment, they share this idea, and you just go, oh, that's cool. Awkward silence, right? Not what they were expecting when they just shared that they wrote a book, or that they had this amazing idea, or that their kids just graduated college, right? We want to actually engage with them through commenting on their content. Right, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to, I'm not done with Corey yet, right? So I post a comment on his post, but then I'm going to go back to his feed here of all of his activity, and I notice another name, right? I noticed this guy, Tim, and I actually know Tim a little bit, but I haven't talked to Tim in 2 or 3 years, right? Didn't know that Corey knew Tim as well. I'm going to click on Tim's profile, right? If I go to Tim's profile, I'm going to see a button that says message. I haven't talked to Tim in 2 or 3 years. Didn't know he knew Corey. That seems like an interesting talking point, right? Let's go back to that digital cocktail party analogy. If I saw Corey and Tim across the room, chopping it up with each other, laughing like old buddies, what might I do? Walk over and go, Tim, I haven't talked to you in 2 or 3 years. How do you two guys know each other? Right? So what might I do in this environment? Say, Tim, I didn't know you knew Corey, right? That's amazing. I just came back across your profile. Would love to catch up with you sometime. Right? So many times we step into these digital environments and we all of a sudden like talk like we're robots and we don't know how to engage with people. I love this digital cocktail analogy because it allows us to kind of take ourselves out of the fact that we're in LinkedIn for a second and think about, if I saw Tim from across the room, what would I walk over and say to him? And there's no reason we shouldn't say the same thing here, right? Great to see you on the platform. I know we haven't caught up in a couple of years. I'd love to get together with you sometime. Make sense? Everybody still with me on your phones? Awesome. So I'm still not quite done with Corey yet. I'm going to go back to his profile and I'm going to click on, see that 500 connections right under his name? I'm going to click on that 500 connections and it's going to open a screen that looks a little bit like this. So I'm gonna give everybody a second. Are you there? You gotta know if you guys are following along with me. So I'm gonna click on this 500 connections. It's gonna open a screen like this, and at the top there, see that little connections filter? And it's got the 2 by it. I'm gonna click on that connections filter, and I'm gonna change that setting. And what's important about this, for those of you that aren't over familiar with LinkedIn, we used to have a lot more education than we do now. Everybody's at least on it once a week, right? First connections are people that you're already connected to, we've already established a relationship with. Second connections are people that you have mutual connections with, right? So in this example, Corey's connected to him, but I'm not yet on the platform, right? If I change that filter to just show me second connections, I'm gonna see a bunch of people that I know that Corey knows that I don't know yet. Right? As advisors, as salespeople, we should be salivating, right? These are referrals. These are people that Corey could make an introduction to, that we have common ground with, that we can start to build trust with, that we can start to build a relationship with. So I see this guy, Chad Reynolds. He's a founder and CEO. That's usually a pretty good person for us to connect with, right? Anybody like connecting with founders and CEOs? It's a pretty good market to be in, pretty good network to be in. So I'm going to click on Chad's profile. And instead of messaging him, I'm going to see this button that says connect, right? I'm going to click on connect. And always, 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 I'm going to click on personalize the invite, right? Because all of us hate getting that, I'd like to add you to my professional network. Kurt, who the heck are you, right? I want to personalize the invite. I want to give Chad a little bit of context, right? I think, again, go back to that digital cocktail party analogy. I see Chad from across the room talking with Corey. I don't know Chad yet. He leaves the conversation with Corey. What might I walk up and tell Chad? Hey, I saw you talking with Corey. How do you know Corey? Right? I might start the conversation that way. So again, Chad, I'm going to click on personalize the invite, and I'm going to type in, Chad, saw that you were connected to my good buddy Corey Carlson. Not sure how well you two know each other, but I love that guy. Would love to connect for coffee or drinks sometime. Right? As simple as that. If Chad accepts my connection request, I might follow up and just say, hey, when could we get together? Thanks for connecting. Right? Make sense? See how simple that is? I slowed down to explain it, and we still got through it in less than 10 minutes, right? So to think that we can't do this once a week, 2 or 3 times, maybe once a day while we're waiting in line to get our coffee, doesn't make sense to me, right? We can whip through a lot of these. Another option, if you don't feel comfortable just reaching out directly to Chad, is I might go to my messages and I'm going to send a quick message to my buddy Corey. And I'm just going to say, because Corey's a nominator, right? And I'm just going to say, hey, Corey, saw that you were connected to Chad Reynolds. He seems like somebody I'd love to meet. Would you mind making a quick introduction for me? Really simple. Exactly what I would say. Again, if I'm in that cocktail party, I saw Corey talking to Chad. I'm going to walk over to Corey and go, hey, who is that guy you were talking to earlier? Would you mind walking me over and introducing me real quick? I'd like to get to know him a little bit. Same concept here, right? Make sense? Feel doable? A lot of times we approach social media, it feels like, gosh, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. This just isn't my thing. And I got to be honest with you, my early days as an advisor, I thought, marketing. It's marketing. I'll go meet everybody I can meet. I'll go to every networking event I can go to, right? I don't need marketing. I don't need social media. And then I realized the power to build real relationships like this, the power to scalably be at a virtual cocktail party every hour of my day, networking, right? Every time I got 10 minutes at the back of the room somewhere, networking, building new relationships, investing in existing relationships. Right, with me? Has that pain to stay the same grown a little bit? I'm not saying you're over the edge yet, but has it grown just a little bit as we're talking today? Good deal. So here's the deal. If it has grown a little bit, and if maybe that pain of staying the same has pushed you into changing, I'd love to challenge you a little bit. I'd love to challenge you to a 10-minute trust challenge. So over the next, I see some guys taking pictures of this slide. If you want to take a picture of the slide so you remember what the challenge is, that's great. For the next 7 days, I want you to spend 10 minutes every single day executing these 3 challenges that we talked about, right? Joining the conversation, just simple as that, commenting on somebody else's content. I'm going to step aside for those of you taking pictures. I want you to join the conversation, just comment, right, on somebody's post, engage in a conversation with them. I want you to make connections that matter. I want you to look at those mutual connections with some of your best clients, advocates, nominators, and evangelists. And I want you to reach out to 1 or 2 people, right, that you think are a fit for, that you'd just like to get to know. This doesn't always have to be about sales, right? It might just be a great relationship that leads to another great relationship that eventually leads to a client, right? And third, I want you to ramp up referrals. I want you to reach out to that advocate, to that nominator, that evangelist, and say, hey, I saw that you were connected to Chad. Would you mind making an introduction for me? Right? 3 really, really simple things. I promise it won't take more than 10 minutes. I promise you can do it while you're in line at the grocery store, whatever the case may be. But I know that it'll have a dramatic impact on your practice. I know that it'll have a dramatic impact on your energy too. Right? If you're in this business, you like relationships, right? Anybody in here in the business and don't like building relationships? We all love relationships, right? And that's all this is. It might come in a platform, but it's going to lead to a face-to-face relationship. It's going to lead to being on the phone or sitting down with somebody and hearing their story. And that's what this is all about. Something we talk about often with our clients is this idea of the blend. It's a digital tool, but there's a human being on the other side of it, right? Sometimes we forget that. The blend is where this stuff really comes to life. So an example of that, if Chad were to accept my connection request that I sent to you earlier, I might actually pull out a note card and write Chad a handwritten note and say, hey, Chad, so great to connect with you on LinkedIn. I know you're good buddies with Corey. I'd look forward to getting together and getting to meet you sometime, right? I actually love to send books. I have a lot of favorite books that have had an impact on my life. I think if you want to take the note card, and I didn't invent this, obviously, a lot of you guys are nodding your heads that you do this as well. If you want to go above the note card, I like pulling out one of my favorite books and writing a note in the front jacket and just saying, Chad, great to connect with you on LinkedIn. I look forward to getting to know you a little better. I thought you might enjoy this. Is one of my favorite books. It's had a huge impact on me, right? So with that, thank you for your time today. I hope you'll take me up on the offer of 10-minute trust building throughout the next 7 days. If you do want to reach out to me personally, my contact info is up here. You can find us at scaledupmarketing.com and then at FP Financial Planner Growth, fpgrowth.com. We actually have some free online resources around overhauling your LinkedIn profile. We didn't quite have the time to get to that today, but there's a free course on fpgrowth.com that you can enroll in that is me on video, 2 or 3 minute videos at a time, take you step by step through overhauling that LinkedIn profile. So hope this was valuable. Thanks for having me.
Does anyone have some questions? We can take a few. We still have some time. All right, please wait until the microphone gets to you so we can hear on the broadcast. All right.
I'm on both Facebook and LinkedIn, and they seem to have some common areas like this. So what would you really say is the biggest difference between a LinkedIn being better than Facebook for this?
It's a great question. I don't know that one is better than the other. I think you nailed it. I think they're very similar in a lot of ways. I think that the biggest distinction that I would make there is LinkedIn is very much a professional environment, right? So I would argue that the conversations that we're ultimately trying to have are professional conversations. They might come alongside a personal relationship, but if the goal is to eventually network or build a professional relationship, I think LinkedIn's just a little bit more of an appropriate space to have that conversation. With regard to creating content on the platforms, if we're going to post ideas about strategies that like for wealth management or insurance or anything like that, LinkedIn is a much more appropriate place to post that content. Those are the major differences, but we're on Facebook as well. I think it's an important platform to be on. As far as we go back to that trust equation, when you think about building intimacy, Facebook's a great environment to build intimacy in because it's expected that it's more of a personal relationship there.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I think we have some questions from the internet as well.
All right, so this is coming from Nicole Middleton. Kurt, could you explain the difference between a nominator versus an advocate?
Yes. So we talk about client moving from nominator to advocate to evangelist. Thanks. Nominator, advocate, evangelist. So when we think of a nominator, I think of someone, I'm sitting down with them in my office. We just finished a meeting and I say, hey, who in your network would it make sense for me to meet, right? I'm initiating that conversation and they're saying, well, of course, let's talk about my buddy Jim, right? Whatever the case may be. An advocate then is somebody that says, Jim comes to them and says, hey, I really need to work with somebody in the marketing space, or I really need a financial advisor. Do you know anybody? And an advocate is going to volunteer and say, yeah, you should call Cammie. You should call Kurt, right? An evangelist then is not even going to wait for Jim to bring up the conversation. And if we're creating a really great client experience, we should have, not saying everybody's going to be an evangelist because it takes a certain type of personality. We should have a few evangelists in our practice, right? That they don't even wait for Jim to say, hey, I need a financial advisor. They just say, Jim, I know you probably have an advisor. You got to talk to Suzanne, right? You got to talk to my advisor. They do such an excellent job.
Okay. And then what's your opinion on the free option of LinkedIn versus going to the premium, the fee-based version?
Yeah, so a lot of our clients are on Sales Navigator. If you're going to invest at all on LinkedIn, invest in Sales Navigator. Don't invest in premium. Sales Navigator gives you some of the perks of premium for just a little bit more money, and it gives you a ton of search functionality. But my advice on it, if you're asking that question, my guess is that you're probably newer to LinkedIn. You're not leveraging all that's included already in your free version. So stay on the free version until you start to hit some of those limits, and then go and look at Sales Navigator and what some of the opportunities are there.
And one comment on that, Sherry was asking that she's missing, she doesn't see some of the functionality on LinkedIn, some of the pieces. If you were to call LinkedIn and tell somebody you're interested in Sales Navigator, they will teach you the whole product personally. Yes. They'll be more than happy to. And they also have a really nice advertising module. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do. I will comment, LinkedIn, if you're a NAIFA member, do you have NAIFA listed on your profile? And if you don't, make sure you put it a couple of times. Your chapter, your state, your NAIFA member, any of those pieces of your bio, because then that will increase your organic search. You're already listed on NAIFA.org as an advisor. We start getting more things back. Guess what happens when people start looking for you? You come up in Google, et cetera, rankings, right? So that's probably a different session, but I was just going to go ahead and just plug that, because that helps everybody. That helps us market you, and it helps you have that credibility, et cetera, so people know you ascribe to a code of ethics.
I think just to second that, to think back to that trust equation, right? Credibility, reliability, and intimacy. NAIFA, being a member in NAIFA, it goes to credibility, right? So I think that's a great point.
David asked a great question that I think a lot of people have. And he says, how do you get linked into your compliance for financial professionals if you have compliance departments?
Yeah. Notice that it says scaled up marketing, not scaled up attorney at law. Every compliance department is a little bit different with what they will allow, won't allow. I highly recommend sitting down with your compliance officer, whoever your contact is there, and just understanding kind of from their perspective, the do's and don'ts. Typically, compliance departments are a little bit more lenient with LinkedIn than they are a Facebook or an Instagram. They're a little bit more open to, because it is more of a professional environment. They're a little bit more open to the conversation of starting to create content or engaging with prospects. Some compliance departments aren't going to want you to create content on LinkedIn, which is totally understandable. But no compliance officer is going to stop you from connecting and engaging with individuals on the platform.
That's a great point. And a couple of other comments back on that. Brenton Harrison is a NAIFA member advisor. He did an advisor ambassador session earlier, well, in 2019 about compliance and social media. So it's on demand. We could bundle it together. He's so good, his compliance department calls him. And then I'd also say, if you're not aware, the Securities and Exchange Commission, we're actually in an open discussion period now. It's the first time they're going to look at a lot of their social media and digital advertising regulations as a whole. They haven't looked at it since like 1960 something. And that's actually under review. So it sounds like if everything seems favorable, it's going to go that way.
Yeah. Good question over here. Yeah.
Be right there.
Artem's going to run the mic to you.
Could you give us some more information about the cocktail party?
Yeah. Would you like to join us?
Maybe. Got to give me the information first.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. Do you just want me to run back through that analogy? Or
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I really do love this analogy, and it really came from an organic place of kind of dawning on me that I had been on social media so often and for so long because I was learning it to be able to be a resource to advisors like you. And it struck me that it does have a lot of similarities to the cocktail party, that when you get comfortable leveraging the tool, that it is no different than the conversations all of us are about to have when we press stop on this and we start to walk out in the, right? I think the most important piece there is just to remember that whether you're liking a post, whether you're commenting on an article, whether you're sending someone a message, remember that your tone and the things that you say should feel exactly like it would when you're human to human, face to face, right? And what I'll say is, like, at first that feels still a little uncomfortable when you go to comment and you're trying to think of like, what would I actually say if I was in person with this individual? It's kind of hard to get your mind to go there, but it's like anything else. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes, to where now, I can, as I'm walking down the hallway, comment real quick on somebody's post and it feels like a personal conversation, right? So it takes reps.
So you're saying it's similar to like a form of texting, because you're going to be going back and forth individually with that one individual.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. A comment on a post or a message to an individual shouldn't feel like a closed loop, right? I even like to, oftentimes, if I'm commenting on a post, I'll ask a question. I'll say, hey, I thought this one piece of your article or your idea here was really interesting. Could you tell me, like you just did, right? Tell me more about this digital cocktail party thing. You might see a post I make about the digital cocktail party. You might say, hey, tell me more. How does that exactly work, right? And it's opening a dialogue.
We'll be in touch.
There you go.
Got another question over here.
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been very, very good and useful material.
you.
Do you approach demographics or ages differently? So my thinking with LinkedIn is you got a lot of younger people who use technology very comfortably.
Yeah.
And when you start looking at 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, are you changing how you approach people that maybe are in that demographic?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I love the question. Thanks for the question, because it is something that comes up a lot, and I think it's really insightful. First, let me just say, like, everyone's an individual. I know 23-year-olds that don't have any social media and just don't have a social media bone in their body. And I know folks in their 70s that are on it more than I am, right? So I think I never want to try to categorize anyone up front. By going to someone's activity, you can get a sense for on the platform, you can get a little sense for their that way. So I would say, I don't know that my approach changes a ton. I think expectations change a little bit, right? If I can expect that maybe somebody in their 30s that I'm approaching is probably going to check their LinkedIn a little bit more regularly. But again, I think I'm cautious to do that, because I would argue the data on Facebook is that in their 50s, 60s, 70s are on the platform a lot more than folks in their teens, 20s, and 30s. Instagram is maybe a little bit the reverse, but over the last 2 or 3 years, it's been aging up as well. And so I wouldn't be overly worried about it. I would be yourself, just like you would act at that cocktail party, and not worry about what the other person does on the other side with regard to social. Does that make sense?
I completely 100% be authentic. It's just like if you're going to be in person, because you'll attract the right people that you want. Otherwise, it's going to be an artificial relationship. You'll probably have to churn. A question that we also got here is there a way, and I might just answer this one myself, it's okay.
Please.
Somebody asked, David asked, is there a way for companies or regulators to follow or monitor LinkedIn? And so I'll answer and then you add to it. But
Sure.
there's a plethora of software tools out there that do all sorts of social media aggregation and looking for things and pulling it together. At NAIFA, we use curator.io. It's relatively inexpensive because maybe you've heard we're not for profit, but you're able to actually look at all of the channels as well as track key clients, et cetera. If you want something completely free, you could set up a Google alert, which is free, and track people's names, et cetera. Do you have any other thoughts on anything you use, like aggregation or monitoring type of? It's called monitoring. That would be if you're Googling, like, I need social media monitoring software is the term for it.
So is the question about, like, from a compliance perspective, we want to be able to monitor what's happening, or just
software ideas for monitoring social media?
So we love buffer.com, another similar to Curator, but just a tool to be able to, if you want to manage like LinkedIn, Facebook, all from one place and see your analytics all from one place. Also a free tool. It's really easy and intuitive to use. From a compliance perspective, similarly, there's a ton of tools out there that can help you make sure you're staying compliant. And I would just say, I would worry less about the tool. Find a tool that you like, that's easy to use, and that you can get comfortable inside of and use it. Like, we're agnostic to the tool as much as the fact that you're engaging in the platform. You're getting comfortable with something in that regard.
Okay. One other question from Mr. John D. Richardson himself. If anybody knows him, he's an Eagle Scout, if he hasn't told you. He says, do you have any tips for inorganic search? So if you go to Google and you type in John Richardson, how could you get his LinkedIn profile to come up, let's say in the top, let's say the first page? Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, so John Richardson is a common enough name that I could see where that would be a problem. You can LinkedIn profiles work from a search engine optimization standpoint, just like your website does. So not that you want every opportunity, every text opportunity there to say John D. Richardson, but you could include your name more often throughout your profile. That'll help you rank in the Google search a bit higher for your name specifically. You could also update your profile more regularly. So I know we're not talking about search engine optimization, but use the search of your site. LinkedIn works the same way. If you're updating your profile on a regular basis, meaning posting content, you're updating your summary content every once in a while, you're updating your experience content every once in a while, you're including media on your LinkedIn profile, that will help tell Google that this isn't just a stagnant page. There's actually something happening here, and meaning that it's probably more relevant than the pages that are stagnant. So you get a step ahead of some of the other John Richardsons out there.
So, and a couple of things with that. When we're at NAIFA home office and we are putting out social media about our members, we often will want to link to your LinkedIn profile rather than just your company site, et cetera, because if you've got it updated. So when we're looking at that, we'll just say, are we on Twitter? Are you on Facebook, by the way? It's harder, it's more intimate, but there's so many more permission settings. Yeah. So LinkedIn is a much more public kind of directory. It's easier to cross promote. But something that we will do, and we'll look at your LinkedIn profile and we'll kind of make a judgment, is that which one's stronger to help you. And so something you want to think about as well. But we're not that inclined to do it if you don't say you're a NAIFA member. So just one of those things. Then I was also going to note on the search engine and coming up there, to your point about looking at the description of your after your name and what you categorize yourself as. another kind of cross-promotional piece. If you were at 2019's Performance Plus Purpose, we did a YAT panel, and Brian Haney, who's is our past diversity champion, young advisor of the year, he did a little session about the profile, and we also have that recorded, so we could clip that out and send it, because I think it was really well done, and we can just share and compare. And one last thing, February, next month's NAIFA Live, is a gal named Megan who's over at Ash Brokerage, and she is a master brand storyteller. Like, she's actually, she's going to talk about developing your story, and to your point about how you want to present yourself online. So it really pairs nicely with today's session. You can take and put this in action, and then she can help you push that out.
I was just going to flip back to exactly what you were just talking about, of this content on your profile, right? Of understanding some of these different components, and amazing that you're going to talk about story. We use the hero's journey framework to help craft some of the content that's in your headline or that's in your summary, so that it doesn't read like a resume.
Would you mind reading yours out loud, or reading that one out loud?
Yeah, I don't have the whole thing pulled up here, but it says, so my headline here, to call attention. Oftentimes the first thing somebody's going to see on your LinkedIn profile is a tiny little, does nothing, right? Your name and then your headline, right? So my headline reads, partnering with business owners and financial advisors as they grow their reach and increase their impact, right? It doesn't tell you exactly what we do, tells you who we work with, and starts to create a little bit of curiosity, right? Move from unaware to curious to interested. Then I'm going to read what's up here that I can read. It says, in 2016, I set out on a mission, be different than any other coach or consultant I had ever hired. Prior to launching FP Growth and Scaled Up Marketing, I was a 6-year financial advisor and had grown my practice to 250 plus clients. I enjoyed my work, but I kept getting stuck. How do I serve all these clients in an impactful way? Right? And so it starts to set up, I love that you're going to talk about story in February. It starts to set up the story around, why do I do what I do in the first place? And it's a very personal story for me, but what does it do? It creates intimacy, right? One of those key components to trust, but it also creates a little bit of credibility, right? In the fact that I've sat in that seat, I've built that client base. So as you're going through that story framework, think about, once you have that story nailed down, how could I incorporate that into my summary? They now call it your about section, but that section where you do have a little bit more room to run, a lot more text to create there.
And one thing I would comment is that we were talking about generational differences. If you have your profile, but you don't have an image in there, it is often construed as being creepy and weird. And so just a note, you might not know that. So depending on the generation, it's like, ooh, why this seems a little sketchy. So make sure you've got an appropriate photo. And if you work with millennials and centennials, the generation underneath them, they often, especially young women, will often put up a shot that is usually from a wedding because they did their hair and makeup that day. And oftentimes they're in strapless dresses, and they're not thinking that also does not come across correctly. So for your young agents and advisors, you want to make sure you get really good headshots that are appropriate. But the style can also not just have to be so stodgy. It can be like, and you're kind of like yours is great, right? Like you're in flow and in talking. So just some other image tips.
Yeah, I love that.
Any other questions? My virtual audience is happily saying this has been a wonderful experience.
Thank you.
They've really enjoyed your conversation. And if there's no other questions, I think we'll say on behalf of NAIFA, thank you so much. That's a wrap on January. See you in February.
Thanks for having me.